Hi guys. Um, this is going to be a terrible video because I'm making it so quickly, but I just wanted to go over some of the survey guidelines with you, and I figured it's easier to do it over a short video instead of having you read like a 10-page document with annoying like bolded sentences all over to understand. So this Friday is the last day that we will be holding workshops at Williamsburg. So it's our last chance to collect data. And collecting data is really, really important for Project College because the statistics we gather from our students about their FAFSA completion rates, their college application rates, those are the statistics that we put in our end of year report that the public sees about us, that other organizations see about us, that funders see about us. So it's really important that this information is accurate and that we get it from every single student. So those are the first two guidelines, and probably the most difficult given the time limits. The survey needs to be administered to every single student in the classroom and completed with them accurately and with every single student in the classroom, regardless of how many workshop leaders are in a room. So my suggestion is, if there are multiple of you, divide the room up. So if there are two of you, take 10 each, for example, in a 20-person class. You want to bank that you're going to take maybe 2 to 3 minutes for a survey, depending on how long it takes. So right there, 2 to 3 minutes times 20 kids, you're already looking at 40 to 60 minutes, right? And a class period is only 50 minutes. So you really want to split those classrooms up. If you're by yourself, you want to be really, really strategic with your time and just go, and get all those surveys done. So I'm going to show you guys a clip of the actual survey and talk through some of the confusing questions. So before you administer the survey, at the beginning of the class, you're going to make the announcement that's in the day of guide about what the survey is. And then you're going to go ahead and ask the students to open up their emails. And that's going to be super important, and it'll help the survey process go much faster. If they don't know the answer to a question, for example, about what happened to the opportunity programs, if they got a student aid report from the FAFSA, at least they have their emails open and they can check really quickly. So I would tell the whole class to open up their emails and pull up any important financial aid emails they have before you even start going around to help them with their surveys. So as you can see on the survey, the first few questions are pretty straightforward. You're just going to give last name, first name, birth date. Just be really careful here. Make sure that the student actually spells out their name for you, because we have a lot of issues matching up students to the rosters if the spelling isn't correct when you put it into the survey. You also want to make sure you enter the birth date in the format of two digits for the month slash 2 digits for the date slash 4 digits for the year. If you enter it in another format, again, it gets difficult to match up students. The fourth question is a question you're only going to use if a student says, I don't want to take this survey. So as you're going to see in the day of guide, there's an announcement you make at the beginning of the class explaining what the survey is and that students can opt out of it if they don't want to do it. So if a student says, I don't want to complete the survey, you're going to check that box that says student does not wish to complete, and then you're going to submit the survey as is. You're still going to put their first name, last name, birth date into the survey just so we know that they didn't complete the survey and we don't have data for that student. And you're just going to say they didn't want to complete. For every other student who doesn't say, I don't want to do this survey, you're not going to answer that question because it's not a required question. The next question, as you can see, is where have you submitted applications for college? So the first three options are for students who have not applied to college. They can choose that they haven't applied because they're planning to join the military, they haven't applied because they're planning to work, or they haven't applied but they are planning to apply. And the following options are all different schools that they might have applied to. So you have CUNY 2 years and CUNY 4 years. So the 2 years are the community colleges. And then you guys all know what a 4-year CUNY school is. And then there's SUNY schools, private 2-year, private 4-year, and out of state or other. The private 2 years will likely include a lot of trade schools. So if a student says they're going to go into some kind of certification program, they might fall into that category. In terms of opportunity programs correlate with the schools they apply to, and they're only applicable to New York State schools. So, if they have any questions about this, so if they applied to CUNY, for example, they may have applied to CD or SEEK, depending on which kind of CUNY they applied to, 2-year or 4-year. And if they applied to SUNY, they would have applied to EOP. And if they applied to a private school like NYU in New York State, they would have applied to HEOP. And they may not have applied to the opportunity program even if they applied to the school. And so if they haven't, that could be something that they choose to get on right now and start doing. So you could, if you want, encourage them to look into it. For all of these questions, if while you're asking the student the questions you feel like they've fallen behind on something or there's something incomplete, that's a time when you could discuss what next steps might be for them or what they can do during the workshop to get ahead. Have you received any responses from opportunity programs is the next question. So possible responses are that they haven't heard back at all, which might mean that they recently applied, or that they received an email outlining next steps for them, or that they got into the program, or that they didn't get into the program because the program was full, or that they didn't get into the program because they were ineligible, or other. The next question is, have you completed and submitted your FAFSA? This question and the following question are the most important questions on our survey. So this is the meat of the data that we're gathering, and this will be the most important thing in our end of year report. So I want to make a few distinctions here. Obviously, everybody can make the distinction between didn't start, haven't finished yet. So for example, if they started but it's incomplete, if they're not planning to file, then you would obviously click that button. But if they received an error email from FAFSA, you would click that. Now, the last two might sound similar, but they're not. So when you submit the FAFSA, as you guys know, you receive two different emails. So right after you submit it, you receive submission confirmation, meaning your application is done. A few days later, 3 to 7 days later, you receive another email from FAFSA that either tells you there was an error on your application or it gives you a student aid report. So if a student has both of those emails, then you're going to check off received student aid report. And that's how we know that everything is finalized with their FAFSA. Have you completed and submitted your TAP? We have the same answer options here, except we don't have the student aid report option because the TAP student aid report won't be coming out until May or June this year until New York State finalizes its budget. Then, have you applied for scholarships? Yes, no, but I plan to, no, and I do not plan to. So, did you receive enough financial aid to attend your top choice school? Is the second last question. So, in answering this question, students should consider all of the financial aid that they received. So, that will include the Pell Grant, the TAP, scholarships, opportunity programs, institutional scholarships, anything that could be applied as financial aid to their top choice school. Did they receive enough to attend that school? The answers could be yes, no, or other if they haven't decided. The last question you will ask to all the students, but of course they're not obligated to answer. It's just feedback for us. So we've been working with them all year, and we just want to hear what feedback they have for us. What could we have done differently or done better? What could we have focused on more or focused on less to actually help them through the process? Did they feel like they actually got help in the process? Or was it really not that helpful? And what would they have had us done differently? And what can we change for next year? So any feedback they have, that's where you'll put it. And that's it. Then you're ready to submit the form.